Question. Why is it that black mothers mistreat their daughters just for their daughters to become the only ones they can depend on? Like, let's be clear. I love my mother very much. I am healed. I know that she's not just a mom. She's a human being who had her own mom. And all I can do is break the generational curses.
That was TikTok user Jack the Queen sharing her views on motherhood. And now us BGS ladies will weigh in on the rifts between black mothers and their daughters. So ladies, we all know at a certain age, you know, your black mom might say you getting the smelling yourself. And there sometimes begins to be a tension between black mothers and daughters and certain rifts arise. So I gotta ask you guys, why do y'all think that happened?
I feel like black moms, they sometimes impose their fears and their joys on you, right? Like they'll say, you can't do that because they haven't been able to do it. Or you can't go that way because, and so you have to really monitor, okay, mom, is this you just being fearful or is this you trying to protect me? And sometimes that starts happening around the teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like as black women and specifically black mothers, they're taught to be tough because they're kind of preparing us for the relentlessness of the world, the fact that folks tend to, and this is on a, you know, a generalized perspective, but I feel like a lot of black women know that they're going to be kind of believed less. They're going to be kind of, you know, tested more. And I think black mothers feel it the most because they're black women first. And they know what it is to not only be black women, but to be black girls. And personally for me, growing up with my mom was tough my entire life, but I loved it. You know, tough love was love to me because I felt like that meant she didn't play about me. You know, she really saw my gifts, she saw my talents, and she said, this is something I'm going to cultivate and make sure that everyone else knows this is something that should be exalted in a sense. So I felt, I mean, listen, tough could be tough. You could break, you can fold, or you can decide to say, listen, I'm going to respect it and put myself in a position that you respect me too. And so now I think as an adult, there definitely is that partnership aspect to mothers and daughters that I especially feel like my mom is one of my best friends because of that.
My mom is not black, okay? So I wanted to wait for all of you guys to chime in. My mom is white, and she raised a black biracial woman. And growing up, our relationship, I mean, I'm pretty headstrong. I'm an Aries and she's a Pisces. I'll just leave it at that, right? But my mom is like my best friend, and I just feel like my mom has always had my best interests at heart, and her intentions have always reflected that, although I may not have received it as that. All right? I mean, she's done a lot to try and protect me. And I think that's just the job of a mother. So I feel like, I mean, it goes beyond race at this point. I just think it's a mother and daughter thing. And I know that for me, growing up in school, a lot of times I was targeted and discriminated against. And there were teachers who would go say to my mom, like, oh, I think Dimitri's being difficult, or she has a bit of an attitude problem. And so my mom, in her caring and kindness, was trying to determine, I mean, does Dimitri have an attitude problem? And later on in life, it was really just discrimination. It was because I was a black, strong, confident child that there were white teachers who didn't know how to handle that and so described it in that way. And I think a lot of children have experienced that, black young children. And so that was kind of tough. And so later now when I talk to my mom, I'm like, Mom, a lot of this was racism. Right? And that's not her reality because she is white, but she has black children. And so that was one of the things that we had to kind of get on the same page with and learn to trust each other and trust our experiences. Because these are credible people. Teachers come into my mom and say this. My mom's a teacher. It was at the same school she taught at. And so these are people who she may have called friend. Right? And then it's like, here, me as a kid, I'm like, no, Mom, it's not like that. I didn't do anything wrong. It's not my fault. And so we had to talk about that and work that out.
What was your relationship like with your moms growing up, and how does it change, or if it has changed now that y'all are in your big ages?
Yeah, so I wanted to piggyback off like one thing that you said. I like that you did mention that your mom is your best friend, because me and my mom had to grow to that point. When I was a child, it was very much, I'm not one of your little friends, you know? And she often said, this is a dictatorship. This is not a democracy in my house. She often said that. So it was my word, and that's the end of it because I said so. And I didn't like that. But to answer your question, Akilah, my relationship with my mother has grown exponentially, because when I was growing up, she was the wicked witch from the West, okay? When I tell y'all, I
love your mom.
I know, but she's a great mom. But I didn't, like you said, as a child, you don't understand that you are trying to protect me. Right. You are trying to guide me. You are keeping me shielded from things in the world. She used to tell me, this world gonna chew you up and spit you out. So she was just trying to instill in me survival tactics. And now that I'm older, I can respect that, because I'm like, Mom, you know what? you did your big one.
Right. I love that.
Well, I want to go back to your first question as well. Why black mothers, have a little rift with their daughters, on the road to adulthood. I think definitely it's having kids without healing. A lot of them are going through things that we didn't understand as kids. So their hurt kind of trickled on to us. Yeah. That's number one. Number two, it's just not knowing. Some of them not reading books. They just had, and they have kids at young age, like my mother. My mother had me at 18. She didn't know. We learned, we grew together. So she's a teenager. She's trying to figure it out, and I'm her daughter. And I feel like maybe some of the parenting things, they got better because I have 6 siblings, and they didn't get it half as bad as we did. The oldest two, always gets it the worst. Okay, because then when I see them slide, and I'm like, no, mama, get on them. How you got on me? Like, so I feel like she grew to the woman that she has become. But, it was hard. Like you said, living through you sometimes, trying to be your friend. She was a teenager. We had to grow together. So I definitely, my mom does live through me still, and I allow her to because I see how it lights her up. But sometimes it can get heavy, y'all. It can get heavy because some things you don't want to do with your mom.
My mom and I feel like we grew together because she had a completely different experience than I did. Like, again, first generation American, families from Jamaica. When she moved here, she was kind of like what a lot of West Indian parents or people do when they first come here. She was a nanny, and she was a nanny to a lot of wealthy families, and she kind of slowly built her way up and built her career, but I saw her do that. And so because of that, I think growing up, our relationship was more of a partnership. It was kind of like, again, I trusted her. She was tough love because she had to keep all of her kids, her 4 kids in line, but also was a level of she had to trust me because I was telling her about America. Right? I was telling her, and she showed that to me too. And then I think on top of that, for me, I went to school or way to school. I went to boarding school at 14, and so I grew up from the age of 14 until again allowing that trust in me to say, hey, you as a child, you're gonna have to tell me what to do, in a lot of major life choices when it comes to children. And it kind of empowered me, but it also made me walk more on a tightrope, especially when coming to my mom, because I wanted to make sure that I got it right.
Yeah, that's something so first of all, I relate to 2 of these stories. Yes. I'm the oldest as well. Okay. It's 5 of us, so already have that in the bag. And then I'm Nigerian American, so having my parents, I'm the first daughter, I'm the first child in a new country. And what I really admire about my mom is I come off and I'm like, hey, I want to be in television, I want to be a journalist. And she's like, what does that mean? Like, how are you making money? What is, I want to go to Hollywood. What does that look like? And instead of, taking away that curiosity, she fed it all the time. Both of my parents, I'm very impressed by that because I'm like, I get it. They're friends. I watch their friends be like, are you sure you want to put your daughter in that? Are you sure you want her to do that? I'm like, can you get out this our house, And I'm so proud of that because I saw how our relationship blossomed when she was like, okay, so you want to do this journalism thing. Well, let's figure out who your favorite person is and let's see who you're going to be learning from. And that was how I started even trusting her more, recognizing how much she trusted me. I was like, wow, like you really trust that I want to do this, that this is within my body, my soul, my spirit, and you're going to nurture that. And so that was something I really respect. Yeah. And then I have so much compassion for our parents, because that generation, they did not have time to heal, right? Like they didn't get to sit there and talk like we get to talk. Like when we mother our daughters, we're gonna have so much more tools in our toolkit, right? That they just didn't have. So as soon as you were talking about your mom, I'm like, dang, I have so much compassion for them, because even now in adult years, I'm hearing my mom say things and I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me that when I was 12, 13? She was like, when was I gonna do that?
And another thing is when you have other siblings, sometimes your parent can put that weight on you, which I had to do because she had to have a job.
So now
I'm the second oldest.
Oh, second oldest.
But I had to take on responsibilities and look after my siblings, which was hard on me because now I have all these responsibilities like that I'm not supposed to have at a young age, which can cause a little friction too. One thing parenting-wise that I would do different is, like you said, it's good to have a healthy respect, but I think tone does matter, and that's one thing that I said I would never do. I didn't like how she spoke to us when we did something wrong. For example, let's say I swept the floor first, and then I wiped the counters, which is not smart, because everything on the counter go get back on the floor. But her response would be, why the f would you do that? That's not smart. That's dumb. And then it's like, that made me feel a way, and I think a lot of parents, especially in the hood, I'm from the hood, I'm from the projects, don't feel bad for me though, because all the cool kids was in the project. We all met at the Green Tank. But, I mean, I just felt like in the hood, they talk to you a little rougher. Sit the down. Like stuff like that, I just said I would never do that and talk to my son or daughter in that way because I know how it has affected me confidence-wise, everything. And then I turned to school. The way I escaped from that was putting myself in every extracurricular activity I could do. I was in cheerleading, band, step, this, because at school I felt cool. You know, at home, even though my mom loved me so much and she's my #1 fan, sometimes the way your tone, it was very hard, you know?
Okay, well, we learned a lot about our Black parents, and we hope the Black mothers out there, y'all learned a lot too.